It's Jen Suzuki, and I'm in the industry. I meet some of the greatest leaders out there, dealer execs, dealers, GMs, and I'm bringing them in the studio to talk to me about what's making their business pop, what's accelerating their growth. I'm sharing my own personal strategies for your sales teams, so I'm ready to get after it. Are you? Welcome back, listeners, to Dealer Talk with Jen Suzuki. I'm Jen Suzuki, and I want you to meet Ted Rubin. Now, this guy is the CEO of ActivEngage, but, he has been a force. I mean, a true leader in automotive digital engagement. He's got this passion for innovation. He's got this track record for driving meaningful conversations. And, this is what I'm all about in the dealerships. For me, this is about human interactions that make people feel a certain feels that gets them attracted to the dealership and the team. And Ted is at the forefront of transforming the way that dealerships connect with buyers online. And so we're going to dive into the future of digital retailing, which is really becoming more conversational. And it's about customer experiences. I'm never going to let off the gas on that. And what's next for automotive engagement? Ted, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. It's great to be here. I love everything that you've been producing. It's great.
Thank you so much. Well, we're so aligned on so many things because, I think in the dealerships, we're constantly trying to attract customers. And customers, for me, I'm always looking for the low-hanging fruit. I just have to put that out there all the time. I mean, with internet leads, it's tough. I mean, I deal with the sales teams and the BDC teams who are banging their head against the wall because nobody wants to respond, and then you're really doing a lot of chasing ghosts, and it chews up a lot of time. But when customers call into the dealership or they show up to the showroom, for me, this is low-hanging fruit. When they hit that dealer's website, would you call this low-hanging fruit?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when customers are coming onto your website, you have like a living, breathing billboard that can actually reach out and touch the customer, right? And you should be using it that way. It's not something that they're driving by and they see it once in a while and, there's no way to know what it's doing. Just the website itself, gives you a lot of visibility on their interaction and who's coming by and what they're looking at. And as you change things, you can see how that, goes up and down in your value as far as what it is that you're offering customers. When they engage, if they're going to engage through the phone or through, messaging on the website or email, but especially in these real-time engagements like phone and messaging, then listen, I mean, you want to treat them with the same kind of quality and respect that you would have when they walked into the store. When a customer walks into the store, you want to just latch onto them, right? I mean, they're there. You don't want to let them go. You want to make sure that they walk out buying a car. I mean, that's exactly what you have to think of when you're seeing these people online, because when they're going to engage, if they go to engage you, they're testing you. They're trying
they're trying to pick their person.
That's it. That's exactly what they're doing. They're trying to make sure, hey, are they going to treat me well? Are they going to be nice to me? Are they going to give me the answers I'm looking for? Is this going to be
They've got options out there.
Quid pro quo? Absolutely. And there's no reason that you can't accomplish that. You should just be making sure that you see them as a human being. You see them as someone that is a buyer, that someone that is a real customer, if they're interacting with you that way. And I think that that's a mistake that a lot of dealers make, is that they see them as something digital. And so they don't treat them that way. They don't give them the same kind of intensity that they would for someone who's standing in front of them, because they're not used to this digital format. So they
can't see them.
That's it.
You can't see them, you can't hear them, and you can't see their tonality. You can't hear their tonality. You this is a lot missing here. But I struggle with this in dealerships, and this is actually why a lot of times people will have me come in, is because they're sending out email templates, for example. This is a great example of what you're saying. They send out email templates, and you think, honestly, do you really think that's going to reel the people in? I mean, no, that looks so fake. Nobody wants spam, and with
so much AI that's out there, and it has its purpose.
Mhm.
But if you don't customize your messaging and you just pump it out there,
Mhm.
customers are going to look at that and they're going to actually, it's going to be counterproductive. They're going to think, these guys, they don't care. These
Right.
guys are just, banging out communications. They just don't care. And I always come back to that. That's the core foundation of connecting with people. People
Mhm.
have to know that you're listening.
Right.
You're answering their questions. And so, for example, a lot of times like I see with internet communications, a customer asks a question on a lead form, which I think is dated, but that's another
Uh-huh.
topic. And then the next thing they're not even answering the question because it's a template that goes out.
That's right.
We're in a different world now. We're in 2025. People want a more customized experience, don't you think?
Yeah, I think that it's not just that they want a more customized experience, and I think that you're right. I think they do want a more customized experience, but they want an experience where they can feel embraced
Okay.
in the same
Okay.
way that they would if they were standing in front of you. They're like, I mean,
Yeah.
I think that anybody at a dealership needs to kind of turn it around on themselves, because it's not like it's lost on anybody. There's this sort of perception that, I'm going to get them in, or I just need to get their information so I can deal with them later in a way that I, as the dealer, is more comfortable in dealing with them. And that's a mistake. You
Yeah, it
should
feels
either get more
transactional.
comfortable doing it this way, or not do it, because the customers should be able to interact with you how they want to. And
Yeah, I
there's so
agree.
many of them that they're on a medium which is very comfortable for them. They can stay sort of anonymous. They know if they call and stuff like that you're going to pick up on that information. So I can go online and I can ask questions, and all I want is to see if you're going to service me the way that I want to be interacted with. So it's not that hard. And if you turned it around, where the person at the dealership is trying to get something and they went to another business or they went to another entity and tried to get something, and all of us have done that, and you get a computer or you get a
A bot.
nonsensical answer. It doesn't even have to be a bot. It could just be another person who just doesn't really care. They're like, you know what,
Okay.
I'm just gonna ask you a couple of basic questions, not really give you the answer, and then ask you to give me your information so that I can put it into a machine later that's going to follow up with you, like you said, with a very generic template and something like that. Nobody's responding to those things. That's not the world we live in anymore. It's not like they're not used to getting these. They get dozens of these every day. They
Yeah, I
get
agree.
forms and garbage and spam, and it's all addressed to them, and it's got their name on it, and it's not worth reading because it's not a real thing. What they want is interaction. You got to remember
Okay.
that they're going there to interact with you. They want that connection. I was just talking earlier with someone about the fact that even to this point, this is, to me, it has to be this very humanistic response, because there's a connection between human beings. There's connection between living things. Like I have connection with my dogs. I have connection with the animals that we have. There's a connection there, but I don't really have a connection to this computer. I use it every day. I probably sit here and look at the screens and deal with things on my computer, at least as much as I do almost anything else in my life. But I don't feel any attachment to it. It's if I call in and I get an automated attendant and I'm not getting the answer I want, I just hang up. But
Right.
I've called into places and gotten an operator, a live person, and I'm not getting what I want, and I will try to fight through it with that person, because I don't want to just hang up on that person. I feel like I can get them to hear me. So there is a connection that all of us have to other human beings, and the same words that are given out by a human being when they come from a computer, then the human being, the correspondent, feels like this is nothing. So if you said to me, I need to get a new car because I was in a massive accident, and I just, I'm a little bit beside myself, so I'm not really on top of it today, but can you tell me a little bit about that car? And if my response as a human being was, that is horrible, I really feel for you, let me do everything that I can to help you, then you're going
I'm
to
listening.
feel a connection to me. If you
Yeah.
knew that
You have
I was a
empathy.
computer, if you knew that I was a computer and said the same thing, would you care?
Yeah.
You wouldn't.
Yeah.
You wouldn't. You would read the words, but you would know that there's no empathy behind the words.
Yeah.
So
If you sniffed it
it's
out.
about actually making that connection. That connection is what motivates people. It's what connects them to you. It's what makes them want to interact with you in the future and to continue on to be able to get through a process. They want to know that they can rely on that other live person who's going to carry them through this process. The computer's not going to do it.
Right.
So
Yeah,
you're
I
either going to
understand what you're
make
saying.
it or you're not.
Yeah, so and kind of going back to the original thought here, which is that customer is on your site. Is
They're
this
on it.
low hanging fruit? For me, if they start to engage you, that for me is the ultimate. I'm fighting for that customer. I mean,
For sure.
these people don't answer their phones. They're getting leads are shot out to multiple dealerships, but this customer's chosen your dealership, which
That's right.
means that they are lower in the funnel. They could have gone to other websites, third-party sites, and that's oftentimes where they start their research. And that gives us a clue here of the importance of this moment, because we don't want to miss any opportunity. For me, I'm a hunter, and I teach people to be hunters, so I don't want to miss any customer opportunity ever. And then they could have gone to manufacturer's site, but no, they're here on your site. They've picked a store, they've picked a location, they found a phone number, and if they found an opportunity to engage with that dealership and get their questions answered, I want my questions answered right now. And a lot of times people come to the websites. We go to all, businesses' websites because we're looking for something in particular. And we want our questions answered right now. And when you do a good job of this, the customers are so engaged.
Yeah.
How are we going to get them to the store?
Absolutely. They're going to stay engaged. They absolutely, they're looking for correspondence, right? They're looking for real meaningful quid pro quo on what it is that they're asking about. But you're totally right. I mean, people are not going to do the preliminary research, and they're not going to go to the local dealer to do that. They're not going to go through that effort, right? They're going to go to the manufacturer. They're just going to go to Google and they're going to go, show me all the cars that are 4 doors that do this and that. And,
exactly. They're getting all their information on Google already.
That's right. Yeah, they're going to do the least amount of steps that they have to get the information. They know that they're going to turn on the computer, and probably the first thing that's going to come up on the browser is the Google search page, and they'll just type it in there. They're going to type in your dealership name into Google to get to your dealership. They're not just going to try to remember what your URL is. So they're just going to ask the question at Google before they even get to you. If, to your point, if they actually make it to your dealership, they know that you're local. They've driven by your dealership or something, or they've seen a local ad, or they know that you're around. They know that you're the brand that they want. They've already done their research on Google or the OEM or somewhere else, on a third-party site. So they basically already know all the questions, even the ones that they may ask at the dealership. They already know the answers to most of those questions.
They've done their homework.
They're
here in your showroom.
That's it.
Right now.
That interaction is more about, so what do you think about me doing this here? What do you think about me coming online and asking you these questions? Are you interested to help me, or am I just going to get kind of, I'll talk to you later after I gather all the information. We'll see what happens later. Think about how that would go over on a walk-in. If someone walked into the dealership and you were like, hey, I heard your questions, but let me get your driver's license and your name, and I'm going to have someone, call you tomorrow.
We would never do that. We're going to attack dog them. We're going to TO them, or early manager introduction. The managers are going to be all over this thing. And in fact, actually, a lot of times, and I'm not to derail this, but a lot of times I equate what we're talking about here, which is, engagement on a dealer site, with phone calls. This is all the same customer. It's a showroom. They're engaging you on their site. They're asking you questions. They called your dealership. This is a low-hanging fruit, this low funnel opportunity. And then a lot of times, even with phone calls, there's no TO process. And I think, how can you TO on the showroom every time, but you don't have a process to TO them on the call? It's the same quality. Same thing on the site here.
No, there's no doubt about it. And think about, so even using that example, so think about the difference between a phone call a little bit and a chat. So they're both live, right? So you have to have answers quickly. You need to respond quickly. If there's a lull, if it's too long and stuff like that, then, the customer is going to recognize what that is. You're also typing everything out. So you want to be correct and you want to use the right language and other things like that when you're corresponding with the customer, but also think what you're getting as a dealer. Right. So now the customer is interacting. So when you get information from that customer, even if you don't get all the way down, and you typically will, I think that people will give name and they will give
Oh,
a
for
way to
sure. I
contact
see
them. You know,
that.
they're not that secure on
No,
keeping that stuff anymore.
no,
The
they're
question is,
interested.
that's right. The question is, are they gonna pick up the phone when you call or respond to that email? Because if you don't treat them the right way, then
Hmm.
they're gonna remember that and they're not gonna interact with you later because they didn't like the way that you interacted with them in the first place. But that messaging that you're having with them at that moment, so all that's written down now. So you
Mm.
have now documentation in your own CRM or your own CDP or your way that you want to chest up this data. You can go, oh, well, I know that this customer was looking for this and they were looking for it on this date and they asked these types of questions.
Hmm.
And you have a build for exactly how to go back to this customer. You should be getting the most out of these conversations. What always is surprising to me is I see a lot of chats, especially with inexperienced people who handle chats and or messages or in any way where it's an instant messaging and someone asks a question and you give them the answer.
Hmm.
And that's all you give. So why wouldn't you go, oh, you're asking about a Camry. You know, have you had a Camry before? Are you a customer of
That's
ours? Is there a
engagement.
reason that you chose a sedan or this
Right.
sedan? Are you at a price point that we're trying to hit? So you
Yeah.
can open up that conversation without ever asking like without ever asking who they are or what their phone number is.
Getting
And they'll start
personal.
talking so much more. It's funny because,
I
you
call
know,
that drinks first, Ted. I just want to let you know. I call that drinks
is that what you
first.
call it? Drinks
Yeah, I
first?
call that drinks first.
Can
You're
I
trying to
use
race
that
to the
now?
finish
I
line.
like that.
Slow down to speed up, okay?
I love that. I mean, I think that, you know, having these drinks first make it easier. I don't know if I should use that analogy, but I mean, it make it easier to get to the next step afterwards, and
It
people are much
does.
more motivated.
Look, you can go one of two ways. What's your name and number? Like, excuse me? Like, I just want to know if you have this vehicle available. It's in stock. Why do you need my contact information? You didn't earn it yet. So this is why I
Right.
say drinks first. Slow down. Wait a minute. With drinks, we're just talking. We're getting to know each other.
That's
Ask
right.
me questions about me. Show me that you care. What kind of cars have you been researching? How long have you been in the market? Have you driven
That's
anything
it.
yet? What's going on with your car? What have you found out so much in your research so far? These are engaging questions that are going to get you to the finish line. But you can
And
either
they
go for
expose so much. They expose so much about what
they
the
do,
customer has
once
done.
they know you're real and you care.
That's it.
That's the trick.
It's absolutely the trick, and it takes some prowess and some understanding and some studying to be able to figure out how to have those conversations, but it is so important that you actually take it that way. And what ends up happening, so I can tell you, you know, we're
Mm-hmm.
obviously who we are here at ActivEngage, and so I can tell you that in a significant number of our conversations, almost 30% of the conversations, we don't have to ask. You know what ends up happening because we
Really? They
show the
just tell
interest.
you?
They just tell you.
Yeah, I
They
believe it.
literally just go, "Hey, can I give you my name and number so that I
Somebody,
can."
yeah.
That's what it is. And so that's what you want, right? You want someone who wants to talk to you again, not someone that you can call, but someone who
Wow.
wants to talk to you. That's the
That
key.
I love what you're saying. I believe it too because I have the same experience when I talk to customers on phone calls. I don't go straight down for their contact information. I don't go straight in for you have to come in. Like I'm not even trying to, tell them no to anything really.
Mhm.
I'm trying to make a friend.
Right. You're
But
trying to make a
that's what
friend.
happens. That's what happens is that they unfold and they tell you everything because once you remove any sort of wall of resistance, any sort of
Right.
barrier, any fear, because
That's right.
they're coming in with an open mind, but as soon as give them any reason to fear. Collecting
Right.
personal information is a great example. Too fast, too fast, too furious. Uh, you know, then they feel, and once they know that you care, you've given them the indication. A lot of times, I say to people, my intention here is to make sure you're taken care of today. I want to make sure you get what you need. I know you're doing research. I want to make this as easy as possible. So that's what I've been hired here to do. So
Right.
tell me more about your research. And then they don't feel like I'm a salesperson or I'm just trying to get them in the door. And I think that's a mistake that we've so commonly made in our communications in the past.
Yeah. I mean, going to, the way that you talk about it, where it's having drinks, it is, you can be too aggressive, right? And it just turns people sour. And it's not that they won't allow you to interact for a little bit longer, but you're not getting anywhere when it's over. you're going to end that conversation. They're not going to want to talk to you again. And, they're not going to pick up the phone you call for a second date, I
No,
guess is what it is.
no.
So
There you go.
it really, it really is problematic when you try to go after it that way. You want to build, just like what you're talking about, you want to build trust. You're going to do that through respecting them. You want them to respect what you know and what you do and how you operate and do things as well. What that's also going to do, I think, that is missed a lot is that, think about cost factor. So wouldn't you rather have leads that are further through the funnel that you can convert much more efficiently because you've already handled most of the conversation up front? Or would you rather just have a name and a number that you could have pulled out of the phone book that now you have to convince to buy a car from you that maybe really wasn't, you never kind of got anywhere in the conversation? It's so much more powerful when you have someone come to you and say, I'm interested to buy from you. Why would I want to buy from you? As opposed to, hey, I got your name and number because apparently you sent in a lead.
Oh, brutal.
Let me tell you why you should buy from me. Now you're trying to overcome an obstacle,
Well, you're not in this scenario here when they're on your site. They've chose you. And all we have to do is basically care, engage them, ask them questions, bring something to the table, but you got to have some sort of strategy because there is an end game here. But you're representing a brand here. So when people come to your site and they got a question and they don't get an answer, that's your brand. When people come to your site and they've already done their homework, they're low funnel. I don't want to mess anything up. I want to make sure this customer has an exceptional car buying experience. And I'll put this out here too, and I'm interested in your thoughts on this. So, with digital retailing, it's picked up momentum, and thankfully, because look, I'm one of those customers. I haven't stepped into a dealership in 10 years to buy a car. There's just no way. I step into dealerships every day to train, but the thing is like, I don't have time for that. I want to do everything remote. I want it delivered. I want to come get my trade. I'm sure I overpay. I'm sure I get ripped off on my trade. I don't really care because time is money. But that's just me. And here's what I want to say is that I've noticed that in the dealerships I'm working in, and I'm in there every single week, that I find myself now proposing very early in the conversations. I'll say, and I want you to know that we have a lot of the technology in place now where we can help you streamline your visit so you're not here for unnecessary amounts of time. So there are things I'll invite you to take advantage of. And if you want to submit them ahead of time, just know that we can set you up and we can get the ball rolling so that when you arrive, you're not having to wait on a test drive. We've already processed your driver's license. We've already set you up in our system. You're not having to wait to get a trade appraisal. I've already got my guy. He's got your VIN. He's already done his homework, and so by encouraging customers to do some of the steps, to be able to take a test drive or move this deal forward. For me, it requires you to say something in your conversation, because how are they going to know you offer this stuff if you don't say it? And for me, I'm just curious from your perspective, your data points, are customers wanting to do this sort of thing more when they hit a dealer's site? Because sometimes they're not pitching it or setting it up, for them to be able to know that service exists.
Yeah, it's funny that you bring it up because I'm thinking about so many situations, and so we've been doing this for a really long time, actually, and so it's kind of a newer phrase that we've sort of coined, but we call it conversational retailing. I know there's conversational commerce and all these other things. The thing that's interesting is,
I see what you're saying.
So the thing that's interesting, and this is exactly what I'm saying relative to what we're talking about, is that even before digital retailing, before these digital retailing tools, which I think are great. I absolutely love the digital retailing tools. But before those things existed, we would be talking, you have to think about the conversation and where it's going to go. And I don't know that it's that much different than the phone, but when you're on the computer, you have a lot more capability to be able to offer things to the customer, right? And with tools, like we have tools and things like that, where you can show videos and you can actually take forms and fill things out and stuff like that, right from the messaging tool that you're interacting with. But the big thing here is that, when you're talking to the customer, you can make it totally organic. So you're talking about, wouldn't you want to move the customer through this? And I'm saying to you, you don't really have to do it. All you have to do is take an interest in the customer, and they'll let you kind of migrate with them there. When you're talking to a customer,
So
and I've seen you
organic.
talk about this, but this is exactly what happens when we're having these conversations. We're talking to a customer and they say, we get them through and we kind of talk about a car and they'll say, well, how much is the car? Or how much is it monthly? And we can go, well, I can give you an estimate of what it, the monthly payment would be. Would you like to know that? Yeah, I'd like to know that. And so we end up offering those numbers and we say, well, I don't think I'll afford for that. What is your credit like? I don't know. Would you like me to do a soft pull? It won't affect your credit and I can get you that information. So we've been doing that for a decade.
This is just conversation.
Yeah, it was just conversation. So we would pull it and say, here's a soft pull and you're about here. I don't know. We're going to have to pull your credit to be able to know for sure, but you're probably going to be in this area. Now with digital retailing and on all these digital retailing tools like, like Darwin and Roadster and all these other ones that we directly interact with, we can just now say to the customer, well, you might be able to get these kind of things. I know that you're about here. Do you want us to actually pull your credit? So I'm not telling them to do it. I'm asking them, hey, do you want to know more? And most of them will say, yeah, I'd like to know more. Do you have a way to do that? And we'll go, yeah. And we'll pop up the digital retailing tool and we'll take them through through the messaging, through the chat, and we'll pull their credit. It'll go directly to the
ultimate lead generation, right?
It's the ultimate lead generation. So I think
you're not doing this on a phone call, by the way. And I'm a big advocate of calls.
Right.
This is the ultimate lead right here.
Yeah, this is absolutely, because you can put it all right in front of the customer.
Exactly.
Now. You can even get them through.
I'll call you back.
That's it. You want to get them as far through the process as you can. But the thing that I want to make sure is clear is that we don't really have to push them there. They kind of want to go there anyway. It's just you're making it available to them. They don't necessarily, they do want an advocate. They don't want to just migrate through. I see a lot of people that, and I've talked to a lot of my own friends, who will go on. They're like, oh, I found this cool tool and I was able to go and I was able to get this information and then I could take it, and decide other things and go to another dealership and show them other stuff and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, that's not really what it's for, but they do give up a bunch of information in there. And that original dealership that has the DR, that'll still, proliferate, all the way through and they'll follow up with them. But what's interesting is that if you're in conversation, as they start to trust you and as they start to have confidence because they believe that you're respecting who they are, then they'll just start to allow you to offer things and they'll go, well, yeah, I'd be interested to know what my payment would be if I actually let you pull my credit. Yeah, I'm interested to know what other fee, maybe I want to step up to the next car or I want to get something different. Value my trade. What do you think that would be worth? How much could I get for it? And they're not looking necessarily through this conversation for you to finalize the deal there. But as you're doing this, and as you're giving them the information, they're giving you who they are, really detailed information about what they're trying to accomplish, when they're trying to accomplish, how to interact with them, all of their communication tools, whether it's phone or email or, other ways to get in touch with them. They'll give you timelines. I'm trying to do this in 5 days, or I'm trying to do it next month.
It's all right there.
It's all right there for you. And all it takes is a little conversation. All it takes is a little bit of interest in what they're trying to achieve. And then using these assets, using these DR products to be able to guide them through it, as opposed to, I always found that it was interesting and I love the DR programs and we absolutely have to use them. That's why we, have these integrations with all the majority of the big DR programs. But I think it's funny that if you went into a store and you walk through the front door and there was a greeter there and they said, so are you here to buy today? Because if you are, I'm going to put you over here. But if you're not going to buy today, then go sit down over there. And it's a different interaction with you. It's the most ridiculous thing in the world. People want to be able to have a guide no matter whether they're here to buy today or they're going to be here, looking to be able to buy, down the road or whatever it is. So I think it's an emotional
purchase and still full of tech and safety features. You still need to know what you're getting for your money.
Absolutely.
And you're not always going to see all of that online.
Yeah. I just think it's funny that, customers are getting engaged with these DR tools in a much more significant way. And I think it's huge for the industry. And I think it's long in coming, actually. It needed to I think things needed to evolve in a certain way. And I think there was some desperation during COVID and stuff like that that kind of launched the visibility like, hey, look at what these things can do. But I still, I think there's a long way to go where customers are going to get confident on kind of navigating through those processes, at least, much further than they have been on their own. But when they do have someone who's kind of an advisor and an asset to be able to kind of talk to them about things and also bring other assets to bear in the conversation. So they're in the digital retailing, but we can bring up you can bring up videos of things that explain F&I products, or you can bring up other data that shows, this vehicle compared to another vehicle, or other things like that. Those things make a big difference, for the customer. And in the end, again, you're just ultimately trying to build trust, build confidence that you know what you're doing and that the customer can rely on you to give them what they need to make the right decision.
I think you've set yourself up. If you could execute just this way, you've set yourself up for a loyal customer, truly a loyal customer, because you were there right where they wanted to be, right when they wanted to be, and you're giving them an experience that's really exceptional, which is what we're all fighting for, which is, how do we win customers over? There's so many people clawing for the same customer.
Right.
So you have to be able to have stronger tools and stronger people in place that can execute in a way that is exceptional, where this customer couldn't possibly think about going somewhere else. And when a customer hits your website, for me, I don't want to let anybody go, especially this one. This is a showroom opportunity. This is a call. This is an incoming call right now. It's very, very powerful. And for me, I oftentimes find myself talking to dealers, these are my clients, and I say to them, you built this multi-million-dollar brand. You got somebody in place that can't answer any questions? These people are low funnel. They call into your dealership. This is where I spend a lot of my time, very similar to you. And it's like, and you don't have any questions, or you're trying to evade them, or you're trying to skirt around things. Like, the more transparent you are with some strategy, now these people are actually going to start to feel confident in you and trust you. And look, no one's coming in unless those two boxes get checked, and they got to like you, and they got to believe you, and they've got to respect you. And so how are you doing that without some level of engagement? I love the video. I love the tools. If you're able to inject those things in for that customer who's at various levels of the journey, and you're right there, you are representing this multi-million-dollar brand that you work so hard to establish. You got these powerful teams, people that are doing all this training. We're trying to hybrid roles. You've got a lot of skilled people, and forget about being skilled. These people are investing their time away from their loved ones. You want to be sure that those customers are feeling just as nurtured, in that journey, and that, people are getting the rewards of performing at this sort of level, you're representing this company.
No, there's no doubt about it. All those things, make so much sense for these dealers to be able to focus on customers in that way, look at the long-term value. I think one thing that we haven't talked about that is derivative of this too is when you give them this really exceptional experience, then in the world we live in today, people love to talk about the kind of exceptional experiences that they have. So they go online, they give reviews, they talk to other people about it. They're like, oh my God, and it's so easy right now because they're so used to not having a good experience that when they have an exceptional experience, they
want to talk about it.
They want to talk about it.
CSI, loyalty, get them into the service department. It all starts right here.
Absolutely. Totally. No, that's exactly what it is. It's all about treating customers with respect. It's all about, giving them access to the tools that they need to be able to identify what it is exactly that they want. And it's about connecting with them. It's about having those kinds of conversations where they feel like they have some control over the situation. They feel empowered, and they feel like they can trust moving forward. And once they have that kind of confidence, then you couldn't even stop them from buying a car from you if you wanted to.
Well, and it's like we said earlier, you're on a hit list. So you happen to be the lucky one. They sought you out.
Yeah. Yeah, they came directly to you. I mean, we keep kind of coming around to that, but again, I don't understand why someone would look at someone walking into the store and they're like, well, but they physically came down here. That's what it is. I can kind of trap them and kind of keep them here. Okay, but think about what they had to do to find you online. It really isn't for them to want to interact with you online. They had to jump through all those websites we talked about. They did all this other research before they did it. And if you think that the guys walking in the store didn't hit your website first,
exactly.
You're kidding yourself.
That's right.
They went there and they saw what the interaction was, and they maybe came to you because of that, or possibly in spite of that. You'd rather the former, because that sale is going to be so much easier if it was because they really liked what that interaction was.
Yeah, I love everything you're saying. We are so aligned in customer experience. Being able to stand apart from your competition so far. And when you've got that customer who is right there, they've done their homework, they've arrived to their destination. We're going to capture it, nurture it, and ensure that that customer just has such a great experience. They want to tell everybody else. And this is what we know drives our business. It drives, loyalty, retention, CSI, all of these important things that dealers are thinking about for expanding their own businesses, and growing their own companies and organizations. But for me, I'm fighting for every frontline person who is investing their time here, and I want them to be respected. And I think that when you offer tools like this, you're letting the customers know we care. We are here for this. No matter which way you want to go, we are here for it.
Right. And that's what makes them show up. That is exactly what makes them show up.
Yeah.
And it's never been any different. That's the thing is, it's never been different. Back when I was selling cars, back when we were selling cars, it wasn't any different. It wasn't, people would, go to the locations. I mean, there certainly was a money factor, but people wanted to buy from people. People wanted to be able to feel like they were going to be treated well. Some of the dealers that I work for, they would have people come from a really far distance because they wanted to deal with that dealer.
Yeah, they trusted this person. We're not robots, People still have that human connection. They want to feel a certain way when you buy anything. This is the second biggest purchase people make. So, of course, we got to nail this thing. Well, I thank you so much for your time, your expertise, and thank you for the investments that you've made in automotive too. I want to tell you, ActivEngage has been on my radar since the beginning of time. I've been in this business for doing this company 22 years. But ActivEngage I was right there at infancy, and I've really enjoyed watching you guys grow. And we're so aligned in, how we feel about customer experiences. And I just want to say thank you for being on the podcast today and sharing your insights. It's truly inspiring for me. It's very motivational for me to share this information with even our clients, because again, you open the doors, stop shutting them. This is another door of opportunity. Anyways, thank you so much for being here, Ted.
No, I'm so appreciative. The feeling is very mutual. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
If you like these episodes and my sales game techniques, you should snatch up our latest dealer education program I'm hosting. It's called Jen's Remote Classes, and it's a 1-hour, once-a-week class with me alongside other dealerships, all pursuing the same end game to achieve top 10% status in your dealership. For more info, hit me up. All my contact info's in the show notes. I want to hear from you. And follow Dealer Talk with Jen Suzuki right now to get notified when episodes like this one drop. This is Jen on the podcast Dealer Talk with Jen Suzuki. See ya!